So hello guys, I welcome all of you on this first class of ethics. Earlier we have taken the session and the recording of the same I think I have shared. If I have not, then I will share again. Okay, so today we are entering not into just sessions that how to prepare ethics, but actually we are going to prepare for the ethics. Okay, so this will be first session. Total 10 class we are going to take on ethics.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so topic one of the session is the syllabus has mentioned these are the topics for which we have to prepare. So one topic they have mentioned about essence, determinants, and consequences in uh, ethics. In human action, in human action, and dimensions of ethics. Another topic is ethics in private and public relationship. Third topic is human values, and fourth topic is role of family, society, and education institute in inculcating the values. Okay, so these are the topics. The very basic thing which we start in ethics is the definition. Okay, in ethics, definitions matters. Always remember that sometimes you might hear that I have made my own definition, or you might hear that I will make and I will write. Unless you know the exact definition, it will become very difficult for you to answer the question. It will become very difficult for you to write an answer for a particular question. Okay, so each and every term which is being mentioned in the syllabus, okay, there is one thing, and try to note down, because this is a class. There are some of the things which you have to do. Most of the things are being covered in the PPT that I will share, but please write down one thing. First thing, that you have to prepare all the definitions. Second thing, while answering the question in theory or case study part, you have to use the terms mentioned in the syllabus. The terms which are mentioned in the syllabus are very important for us. So you will be keep on using such terms which are being mentioned in the syllabus, whether morality, value, justice, humanity, rights, and other things. Okay. So for the answer writing, you are going to use, and we will tell you that how you are going to use. So no need to worry about it. Okay. Then let's let's begin with the ethics. So what is ethics? The basic thing. If you will see that the when the UPSC changed the syllabus, they brought out this paper of ethics. Okay, and in that paper, what they did, they introduced many things. So the basic aim behind introducing this paper is that the civil servants should know before joining the job that how they are supposed to behave. Okay, not only in their professional life but personal life also. So this kind of this paper was being introduced. Generally, as a joke we say that those who are unethical get the very good marks in ethics paper. I think it is not true. Those who are practical, sometimes we become so emotional. Suppose some question concerned that some tragedy has happened somewhere, what you are going to do? Sometimes we become so emotional, and becoming emotional is not going to help at all, whether in administration or whether in public life. So suppose they are giving you a case study where one option is that I will quit. Okay, one option is that I will quit. That kind of option you should never opt, because you are not supposed to quit. You are supposed to solve the issue. And if you are quitting, then who is going to solve the issues? So that is why this paper was being introduced, and to score very good marks, point number one, you should have good command over the definitions. Point number two, you should have some good example list, which we are going to provide, so don't worry about that. Third thing, you should know where to use the knowledge. Okay, do not limit yourself to ethics only and the syllabus of ethics. And we will keep on telling you while going for the answer writing and other things. So you have to use the entire knowledge of your GS or the knowledge you get in day-to-day life in ethics paper. Only then you get very good marks. Okay. So do not get emotional while answering the question. Always be practical. Okay. So what is ethics? Ethics is a set of principles that guide human action to decide right or wrong conduct and in a way acceptable to society. Set of principles. So there are some principles which guide human action, okay, to decide right or wrong conduct. So, so ethics basically is dealing with the right or wrong conduct. In news or in debate, sometimes we say that we should behave in ethical way. We should behave in ethical way. So what is that ethical way? So ethics is some principles are there. If we follow those principles, then our human action will be good for the society. First thing. Second thing, it will not harm others. So that is basically ethics, right or wrong conduct. That's it. Okay. There is one thing which you should remember in this, and that thing is that it should be voluntary. It should be voluntary. Suppose there is a situation where you are being kidnapped by the terrorist, and they want you to do something which is not in the interest of India or in the interest of humanity. That action and that action we cannot say it is unethical because it was forced. It was not voluntary at all. Those who have watched Family Man season one, okay, in that season one, you might have seen that chemical factory engineer. He was forced. He was forced to do some of the things which are going to kill many innocent people. So it was not voluntary. But there is a person, let's say Osama bin Laden. He voluntarily took part in the action which was not ethical at all because it led to loss of life of many innocent people. Second is conscious. It should be conscious conduct. What conscious means we have two mind, right? One is the conscious mind and second is the subconscious mind. And if you are not conscious and if you are uh, doing some act, then this, according to our definition, according to the core principle of ethics, we cannot judge that whether it was ethical or not. So there are some principles: human action, right or wrong conduct. Okay, there are three terms: ethics, morality, and values. Sometimes we get confused between these three terms, and likewise, many terms are in combination. So you should understand the exact difference, only then you will be able to answer. Then quotation we are going to use, because quotations we use generally in essay, but in ethics also we can use the quotations. There is no harm in using the quotation, but it should be as per the demand of the question. Unless there is a demand, you cannot use the quotation. So it should be relevant. So a man without ethics is wild beast. It should be beast. I will correct that. Loosed upon this world, like Hitler. We all know what he did. Okay. Then another term comes morality. Morality is individual set of commitment, values about what is right and wrong. Morality is the ethics of individual. Ethics, when we were seeing this definition of ethics, it applies to all. But when it comes to morality, morality is an individual affair, while ethics is morality of the society and varies from one culture to other at the same time, and some are universal. Okay, am I audible? Any issue with the voice?
No, sir.
Shubham, I think you have to check your internet because from my side, I think everyone is able to hear. Okay, so morality is more about the individual affair. Okay, and ethics is more about the societal affair. It varies one culture to other culture, and we'll talk how it varies. And some are universal. Some moral values are universal, not values, but some morality is universal. So it is more about the values, what is right, commitment and values, what is right and wrong. In a society, let's assume there is a society where polygamy is not immoral. For them, it is very much moral. But in a different culture and in a different set, it is immoral. Okay. In a given society, there is a possibility that like earlier, if you will check the earlier society, and even today, in some part of the world, in Christianity, abortion is not allowed. Abortion is not allowed. It is not at all moral. It is immoral. But in other parts, like in India, it is very much moral. So it varies from culture to culture. Some values are, some are universal. Then this quote, if moral behavior were simply following rules, we could program a computer to be moral. What happens that, of course, we know about the values, morality, and other things, but it is not so easy to change the mindset of an individual. For some, like if you will see, there are some people who don't wear the mask. Okay, and you are keep on uh, like you are keep on requesting them, you are keep on like imposing fine, but despite of that, they are not. It is very difficult to change their mindset. And in today's time, not wearing a mask, it is a very serious crime, because now we are seeing what kind of world we are living in during the COVID times. So this behavior thing, to change it, it is a long process and it is very difficult. So that is why this particular quote was being used. There is one more quote which I have not mentioned in this, that this Tim Cook has said that I'm not afraid that one day machines will behave like human beings. I'm not afraid that one day machines will behave like human beings, but I'm afraid that one day human beings will behave like machines. And in today's time, the time of social media, you all know how we are behaving, how how much addicted we are to the social media, and how much importance we are giving to such things, right? And these things which are not important for us, like in social media, you will find that someone made a comment and you are feeling so hurt, and someone praised you for something, you are feeling someone very forgiven. That is not the case. We are going away from the real life. Real life does not exist in the mobile phones, but we are living in that world. So that is why this Tim Cook has said that particular quotation. Nutrition for physical health, morality for spiritual health. So if we are moral, and if we are having this morality, then our spiritual health will be good. Next thing is values. What is values? Individual set of commitments and values about individual set of commitments about what is right and wrong. This value term I'll have to add it. Individual set of commitments. Okay, what is right and wrong? Like anchor in a ship, even in storm, ship remains anchored to the shore. Suppose you have one value, honesty, and you think strongly about it. Values are, when we talk about the values, we give due respect for our values, and we are so much attached to it. Someone is patriot, uh, let's say that someone loves his country, come what may, whatever money you offer, whatever thing you offer, that person will not accept it. Some are deadly honest, you cannot give them right, even if it is in crores, because it is against their value, and it hits when you are going against your value. Somewhere within mind and heart, we know that we are doing something wrong. So it is an individual set of commitment. Some are universal values, which we will read, and some are individual values, right? For some, taking care of animal, and they feel very strong about animal care and other things. There are others who are not feeling that strong, but if other person is not harming any animal, then we cannot say that you are going against my value of loving the animals. But yes, if someone is harming them, it is wrong. But the person who is harming the animals, he might not be feeling that it is wrong. Sometimes we see that some people are start throwing stones on the dogs. Okay, and for them it is not wrong at all. They are so happy about it. They have no issue about it, because in their value system that thing is not there. But for other, those who are animal lovers, they will feel strongly about it, and they will be very much angry with that person. So values are such. In ethics, in ethics, wherever you are going to prepare, Vicky, no, morality and value is not the same thing. We'll come to it. In ethics, wherever you are going to see some terms which looks like these are the similar terms. Okay, then how you prepare those terms? By using the chart, by using that table. Suppose in mains you will get a question that what is the difference between ethics, morality, and values. Unless you have this thing in your mind that I should make the table, then you will be writing first about ethics, then about morality, then about values, and there is a possibility that you might get confused. There is a possibility that you might not be able to give a singular example where all the three things are being explained, right? So the same thing which I have mentioned in the PPT page number 1, the same thing is here, but it is in tabular form, and this tabular form helps. So these are the individual set of commitment. Okay, these are the commitment that what should be right and what should be wrong. Then another one, uh, this ethics. All the three things have one thing common: that what is right and what is wrong. But somewhere it varies. Quotation, as I have said, you must use the quotations, because you are going to use the quotation in the examination, and that is going to help you a lot. Okay. Then this term, moral subjectivism and moral objectivism. What is the difference between the two terms? The terms which I am mentioning, kindly try to inculcate these terms in your answer writing. When you are going to write the answers, please try to bring these terms. And when you are bringing these terms in your answer writing, try to underline these terms, so that examiner will say that okay, you have used at the right place. First thing. Second thing is, unnecessarily we are not going to use the terms which are not relevant for a particular question, which are not relevant in a particular situation. Okay, so moral subjectivism says that it says moral principles are relative and change from culture to culture. They are contextual and depends on situation. So they are so moral subjectivism basically it is not uniform. We cannot say that in USA some of the things which are moral, the same thing will be moral in Cuba or Venezuela. Okay, so that thing we cannot say. But when we are coming to the moral objectivism, it says that moral principles are universally applicable and basic value always remain the same. In this case, example is UN Declaration on Human Rights. It applies to each and every country in India. Sorry, in the world. It applies to each and every country in the world. How you are going to use it? Suppose you are getting some question, and in that question you are seeing that this Universal Declaration on Human Right, and the question is linked with some of the rights, maybe gender right, maybe environmental right, or other rights. Then you can say that according to moral objectivism, such and such right should be applied everywhere. But when it comes to subjectivism, so what happened that Western society are materialistic. Okay, but Eastern society are spiritualist. In a this Eastern society in spiritual mode, right? So there is difference in the West. If you will read some novels, okay, if you will read the novel written by Western world, in your career, you will get the progress because they are more about the performance, they are more about getting rich, they are more about successful, that how you can become successful in your materialistic life. But when it comes to the East, we were always focusing on one thing, that is how spiritually we can grow and how spiritually we can attain or understand the meaning of life. Okay, so in this particular case, when the debate is about East and West, so we can see that the same set of values and are not applicable. Okay, so you should use these terms. Okay, and in the chat box. Okay. Hmm. Then the next topic is determinants of ethical behavior. That how ethical behavior, like which what determine the ethical behavior. So it could be individual personality trait, means your value system, what you feel strongly about some of the things, and how you behave. Okay, let's say that there is a person in a remote area which is not very developed in India, and in that society it is assumed that uh, women are like men must dominate, otherwise family life will be disturbed. But if you are in Mumbai, if you are in Delhi, there is a demand of equality, and unnecessarily if husband is dominating, then it is immoral. So individual personality trait, and the same person who belonged to that backward area, let's say, came to big cities and he started earning good amount or he got very good job, but his value system will remain the same. He will never uh, he will never uh, be open to the equality. He will be in that dominating mode. That is why we see like for all the issues, we say that education is the solution. Whenever we find any issue, gender equality, gender violence, other things, what we say that education is required, and if we will give them the education, then everything will be okay. But that is not going to happen, because we see many IAS, IPS, big corporate, they are indulging in domestic violence, they are taking the dowry, they are indulging in corruption. Then what went wrong? Please write it down. Whenever in any solution you are going to mention about education, you will use the term value based education. You will always use this term. Please do not use only education as a term. It should be value based education. Only then things can change. In your school, okay, in your school, in whatever school you have attended, there are some schools which focus more on the values. Respect your parents, respect the elders, take care of nature, environment, and other values. And suppose if you are, let's say, 5 year old, from the beginning itself, you are getting those values. The first step where we get the values is the family. From the within the family, we start getting the values, because we see our parents, we see our grandparents, how they behave, how they talk, how they react, and we learn a lot of things from them. So there is a house where parents are very good, grandparents are very good, everyone is respecting others, everyone is helping others, uh, they have compassion for the poor, they are taking care of the environment. Then you will learn those values from the family, and you reach to the school level, and in the schooling years, even if you are not getting the right kind of values which are required for our spiritual development, okay, even though you will be having very strong foundation of such kind of values, because your family has initiated those values, and we when we have such values, it has lasting impact on us, lasting impact on us. Just assume that you are born in a family where your father is a drunken man. Every day he beats your mother, and every day you are seeing your mother crying and she's being beaten up. The same thing your grandfather is doing with your grandmother. So from the beginning itself, you will see that okay, it is fine. This is how the world moves. This is how the things move. Then how to correct it? How to correct it? By entering into the education system. Once you enter in a school and they are giving you value based education, they are saying no, it is not at all correct. It is immoral. And if your educational institute is able to inculcate those values in you, next time when you reach home, you will tell your father that father, this is not right. It is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. Maybe your father will slap you, but at least you will be having a strong foundation of values which are good in itself, right? So the topic which is being mentioned in the unit 1, role of family and education institute, this is the role. They shape our future. All of you, whatever you have learned until the age of 10 or 12, the good things I'm saying, around 50-60% of those good things are still with you. And whatever you have learned in a later stage of your life, some of the bad things, if you are indulging in, your good value comes with the confrontation with this bad act, and within your heart, you know that I'm not doing the right thing. And the moment we know it, that is the role of the values, that is the role of the family values or education values. So, individual personality trait, it matters. Then, culture, of course, the kind of culture we are living in. Uh, for example, you are living in a village where untouchability is prevalent, and sometimes what happens that as a child or as a adult person, you are seeing that untouchability is there, and since your childhood you are seeing it, then you are okay with it. You are like, yes, we are superior caste, so we should behave in that manner only. And those who have first-hand experience of this thing, if you are if you belong to lower caste, then also you start thinking that yes, I belong to lower caste. That is why it is completely fine for the upper caste to behave like this. That kind of culture, that that kind of culture is going to shape your life. Most of the women, when we say that there is domestic violence, other things, and other things, you will find that the mother of the son, like suppose there is a couple, mother of the son is okay that his son is beating his wife. Don't you think it is very wrong? But it is part of their culture. Next time when this wife will become uh, mother-in-law, she will be okay with it. That please beat her. In the society where terrorism is there, not society, but I would say some pocket in some countries, terrorism is there. There are terrorists. Let's say Taliban. In their culture, in their life, they are so much okay with it. They're like, okay, it is fine to kill others. It is fine to rape the girls. It is fine to kill the innocent ones because that is part of their culture. Suppose you are born in Taliban, means the stronghold of Taliban, and they are killing people. And since your childhood you are seeing it, don't you think that you will be okay with it? So culture matters. Then comes organization and industry where you are working. Let's say you are working in XYZ government department, and in that government department they are having habit of coming late. Okay, they have the habit of coming late, or they have the habit of not coming to office, not attending the office. So the moment you join it, initially you are very much active, you are coming on time, you are doing all the work, but in later part you are like that, what is the point of coming to the office, because this is the part of my office culture. You will stop coming to the office on time, and especially you will some of the days you will not come to the office, and you are okay with it. But in some organization, they value coming to the office as a like it is part of their value system in that particular organization, that coming to the office is the first thing which everyone must follow. And you have the habit of coming late. Let's say you have the habit of coming late, but once you see that everyone comes on time, then from inside you are forced, your conscience will say that no, this is not right at all. I should also go to the office on time. And it is a very basic thing, going to the office on time, but it has maximum impact on the organization. Some organizations follow, let's say that they follow good ethical standard when it comes to customer care, but in some organization it is not there. For example, if we will compare and those who are from that era when BSNL was there and when we were all dependent on BSNL. So we know the kind of customer care they have. And then came the era of Vodafone, Airtel. Okay. And you can see their customer support. It is very good. It is excellent. The moment you call, you will get at least a proper response. But when we used to lodge complaint in the BSNL office, it was like 10-12 din baad. After 10-12 days, they'll come, they'll see. And they used to think, look at this organization value. When BSNL workers used to come, they used to think they are doing ehsan on you. They are doing ehsan on you, but it is not ehsan at all. It is part of their job. But that kind of work culture was prevalent there. But when you call this Vodafone or Airtel, and if you say that I'm not satisfied at all, and when they come, they behave properly with you. So this thing matters. Society matters, of course. Earlier in Northeast, head hunting, head hunting uh, was one particular uh, practice which was being used by the tribes, and they used to take the pride. Suppose if you belong to northeastern state during those times, and if you're not killing others and if you're not bringing their head, then you are weak. That was the criteria set by that particular society. Then Christianity came, and thankfully that practice has stopped. But that society, for that it was ethical to kill someone and bring their head. So society matters. Type of government matters. Of course it matters. Why it matters? Just imagine that we are in India and we have our constitution and we have our fundamental rights. We have right to expression, right to privacy, and other rights. But just imagine that you are living in some dictatorship type of countries, or in China. Let's say China. You do not enjoy any kind of constitutional right. There is no right to privacy. You cannot say anything against the Communist Party of China. Then you are in trouble. The same thing happened in Iraq, Libya, Syria. The moment you open your mouth against the government, you have been killed. And why this Arab Spring happened, although it is part of the uh, IR, but in the first line itself, I have said you are going to use the whole knowledge of GS in ethics. So you should have open mind. You should have a mind which is attentive. Only then you will be able to bring some good international examples. In ethics, we have a topic justice. In the topic of justice, suppose some question is coming from justice wala topic. I'm so sorry, guys. Power cut. Just hold for a second. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Power cut here. Hmm. Yeah. So I was talking about one topic which is there in the syllabus, that is called justice. Okay. The Arab Spring happened, and the Arab Spring started because the people of such countries were not free. They didn't have any fundamental right. They didn't have any right at all. So they were not happy with the government. They were not happy that kind of government, and they were saying that we should have some rights, and they were not getting such rights. So it started from Tunisia. Uh, okay, so it started from Tunisia and then spread to other countries, just on one basic thing, that is injustice, nothing else. Because of injustice, they were not happy. And what happened that if you will check the kind of countries they were, for example, Syria, Libya, these were the countries which were, despite of being Muslim countries completely, they were secular. Education, like how much money you have paid for your engineering, those who are engineers and those who have done their MBA, they know how much money we spend in India. And just imagine if you plan to go to abroad, how much money you are going to spend. But in Iraq, Syria, Libya, education was free. You can do your engineering without paying any fee. You can get the best treatment. Today we are in the COVID times. Suppose someone is infected with COVID and they need ventilator support or ECMO support. They have to spend around 40-50 lakh rupees for that basic treatment. Treatment was free. Then you might ask that what else you need? They were one of the best government in the world, but that is not true. They were the worst government in the world because you do not have any fundamental rights, and rights are very important. Generally, we don't give due importance to the rights, but trust me, in India we are living and we have the fundamental rights, and that is one thing we should never forget. Although sometimes we are taking this session without any video because I am sharing the PPT. So those who have started their video, please stop. You don't have to. Okay. So with the different government, different issues came about the fundamental rights. Of course, we are not having so strong fundamental rights. Like today, we have seen the cases that some journalist wrote something true about the COVID crisis in here and there state. NSA was being imposed on them. That is not good for a healthy democracy like India. But still, we have the rights. Still, we can go to the Honorable High Court, Supreme Court. Still, we can think that we will get the justice. So, when you are preparing for ethics, please have an open view. Please, like when you are writing about example or other things, if the question is not, please write it down somewhere for ethics and essay. If the question is not about India, if in the question India is not being mentioned, kindly take international view also. Kindly take global view also. Okay, unless you take it, then you will not, like out of 10 you will get 4, 4.5, but just by putting one example from the global side, you will easily get 5 or 5.5. Okay, let's move further. Some terms to be used in answer writing. These are very important terms which you are supposed to use when we are preparing for the first attempt or second attempt. We don't give value to such terms. If you will see the copies of some candidates who are getting very good score in ethics, what they do, they use these terms which are important. Okay, so they use these terms when there is a demand in the question, and when there is a demand in the question about these terms, they use it, and you should also use it wherever you can. So first term is utilitarianism. Okay, what is the meaning of that? Simple meaning is greatest happiness to the greatest number. So it says, let's say there are 100 people. If one action can give, if one action can give happiness to 90 people, then it is a great act. Okay, so greatest happiness to the greatest number, it simply means out of 100, if 90 are happy with my decision or by the decision of the government, then it is completely fine. But what happens then, we are thinking in this term, then we are leaving the people behind, those who are in minority group, and that is not sign, and that is not the right way. That is not sign of a good democracy, or uh, if I say that decision making process. So what is the issue? One is mob violence. When mob attacks, let's say a group of 100 people are killing one people, and we have seen it in uh, Palghat case in Maharashtra during last year COVID wave. Innocent people, innocent sadhus were being killed mercilessly by the group of hooligans, and they were so happy. They were so happy by killing the innocent sadhus, and they were pleading that please save us, please don't kill us. We are not thieves, and they were thinking that they are the thieves. Even if someone is a thief, and and they were in mob, they could have like uh, take that person to the police station, let the police investigate. But in that case, we have seen the video. Even police was not able to help because it was a large mob. So mob violence. So those 30, 40 people were very happy, but ultimately some innocent life were being lost. Threat to minorities, Rohingyas. Rohingyas are the most persecuted. Rohingyas are the most persecuted minority in the world. So the Myanmar population, and we know that Buddha has preached that non-violence should be in our mind and in our life. But in Myanmar, the Buddhist monks, the radical Buddhist monks, they are killing the Rohingyas. So for that whole section, it is utilitarianism principle. They are happy that we are killing Rohingyas and they are destroying the house of the Rohingyas. Hazara community, we have seen it in Pakistan and Afghanistan how they are being treated. So that is the issue with this particular principle, but we should use it. Then consequentialism, it says that morality of action depend on the outcome. Okay, it is linked with the first principle only. So it is based on two principles: rightness and wrongness of action depends on result, and more good consequence an act produce, better is the act and justifies the means. So if end is good, if end is good, then means is good. They don't care about the means. The Karl Marx example, Karl Marx wanted to create a commune where there is no need of government, everyone is equal, and there is a peace in society. There is no economic differentiation between two people. There is economic equality. But the thing, Karl Marx said, even if we use the violence, and Karl Marx said that the revolution will come through the violence only. Even if you use the violence, it is fine because I'm going to create classless society. Okay, and in this, uh, just give me a second. So Karl Marx said that we are going to create a classless society, but even if we are going to use the violence, I'm fine with it. So that is the meaning of consequentialism. Then deontology, and we say deontological approach, duty for duty's sake. Even Gandhi was preacher of it. Even Kant, Immanuel Kant and Gandhi, they used to preach it. That duty for duty's sake. For them, duty is very important, irrespective of the outcome. Okay, are you getting it? In this term, we are saying outcome matters. Whatever is the outcome. In this term, we are saying outcome does not matter, means matters, duty matters. So you should do your duty. Even in Bhagavad Gita, we have seen it, Nishkam Karma, right? And in Bhagavad Gita, if you will read, so why Bhagavad Gita is there? Because Arjuna was in dilemma. He was like, how can I fight my own family members, my known persons? Then Lord Krishna said, duty for duty's sake. So in this, outcome does not matter, duty matters. So these are the three terms. How we are going to use these three terms? We will use these three terms only in positive manner.